On July 15, 2008, a grandmother called 911 in Orlando, Florida. She said her granddaughter had been missing for 31 days. 31 days, and the child's own mother had told nobody. That little girl was 2 years old. Her name was Caylee Anthony. And 3 years later, in one of the most watched trials in American history, her mother, Casey Anthony, walked out of a courtroom a free woman, not guilty. The nation was furious. Protesters gathered outside the courthouse. Legal analysts called it a miscarriage of justice. Jurors received death threats. And the case went cold. But this year, an artificial intelligence system was given every single lie Casey Anthony ever told. Every text message, every phone call, every fabricated story, every digital footprint she left behind. What it found changes everything about what we thought we knew. And it raises one question that nobody has been able to answer for 16 years. How did she get away with it? Welcome back to Cold Case AI, the channel where America's most haunting unsolved crimes meet the most powerful investigative technology ever built. If you are new here, last week we covered what AI found in the JonBenét Ramsey case. The week before that, the Zodiac Killer. Both videos are linked in the description. Watch them after this. Today we go into a case that is different from everything we have covered so far, because this is not a case where the killer was never identified. This is a case where millions of Americans believe they know exactly who killed Caylee Anthony, and watch that person walk free anyway. So the question AI was asked is not, who did it? The question AI was asked is, what did the jury never see? The answer is waiting for you at the 6-minute mark. Stay with me. Caylee Marie Anthony was born on August 9, 2005, in Orlando, Florida. She was the daughter of Casey Anthony, then 19 years old, and a father who was never definitively identified. Caylee lived with her mother and her maternal grandparents, George and Cindy Anthony, in their home on Hope Spring Drive in Orlando. By all accounts, Caylee was a bright, energetic, and deeply loved little girl. Her grandparents adored her. Her grandfather George has said publicly that she was the light of his life. Caylee was last seen alive on June 16, 2008. She was 2 years and 10 months old. She would not be reported missing for 31 days. Her remains were found on December 11, 2008, in a wooded area less than half a mile from the Anthony family home. Duct tape had been applied to her face. She was 2 years old. What happened in the 31 days between Caylee's disappearance and the 911 call is one of the most documented and most disturbing behavioral records in American criminal history. AI forensic systems analyzing the Casey Anthony case processed over 1,500 text messages and 200 hours of recorded phone calls from those 31 days. And what they found painted a picture that no human investigator had ever seen in its entirety. VidPros. While her daughter was missing or dead, Casey Anthony was attending parties and nightclub events. Photos from this period show her dancing, smiling, and winning a hot body contest at a local bar. Telling her parents she was working at Universal Studios, a job she had not held for 2 years. Telling friends that Caylee was with a babysitter named Zenaida Fernandez Gonzalez, a person who did not exist. Borrowing a shovel from her neighbor. Driving a car that, when finally examined by investigators, had a smell that the child's own grandmother described on a 911 call as smelling like, "There's been a dead body in the damn car." AI behavioral analysis identified what researchers call statistically abnormal patterns in Casey's digital footprint compared to typical missing child cases, meaning that when you compare how a parent with a genuinely missing child behaves digitally versus how Casey behaved, the difference is not subtle. It is extreme. VidPros. In a genuine missing child case, a parent's digital activity, texts, calls, searches, becomes overwhelmingly focused on finding the child. Every message, every call, every search. Casey's digital activity showed no such pattern. Instead, investigators found browser searches including terms for how to make chloroform and neck breaking in the Anthony family's home computer, made before Caylee was reported missing. The Casey Anthony trial began on May 24, 2011, nearly 3 years after Kaylee's remains were found. It was called, by Time magazine, the social media trial of the century. The prosecution argued that Casey had used chloroform to render Kaylee unconscious, and then applied duct tape to suffocate her, freeing herself from motherhood to pursue the carefree lifestyle she had been living during those 31 days. The defense argued that Kaylee had accidentally drowned in the family's swimming pool, and that Casey's bizarre behavior was the result of years of childhood sexual abuse by her father, George Anthony, which left her unable to process and report trauma in a normal way. The jury deliberated for less than 11 hours. Not guilty of murder, not guilty of manslaughter, guilty only of lying to law enforcement. Casey Anthony was sentenced to time already served, 4 days, and walked free on July 17, 2011. The reaction was immediate and visceral. Legal analysts were stunned. Jurors were escorted from the courthouse under police protection. And Kaylee Anthony's murder, officially, remains unsolved to this day. Here is where the story changes. An AI forensic platform called Time Pilot was given the complete Casey Anthony case file, and it did something no human investigator had the capacity to do. It processed all 1,500-plus text messages, all 200-plus hours of recorded calls, and every documented lie and false statement simultaneously, building a comprehensive behavioral timeline of the 31-day period. Simultaneously, independent researchers applied AI linguistic analysis to every recorded statement Casey Anthony made to law enforcement, totaling dozens of separate interviews and phone calls. And a separate AI behavioral profiling system was given the specific details of the crime scene: the duct tape, the trash bag, the location of the remains, the chloroform evidence, to build a psychological profile of the perpetrator. The question fed into every system was the same: what did the jury not see, and why did the standard investigation miss it? Here is what came back, and this is the part that should make every American angry. Finding 1. The behavioral anomaly was off the charts. Time Pilot identified statistically abnormal patterns in Casey's digital footprint compared to typical missing child cases. But the degree of that abnormality was what AI flagged as critical. In normal missing child cases, parental communication patterns shift within hours. Search activity changes. Social behavior stops. Casey's patterns showed zero shift. For 31 days, her digital behavior was statistically indistinguishable from someone who had no missing child. AI classified this as a behavioral profile consistent with someone who knew there was no child to find. Finding 2. The lies had a structure. AI analysis identified 4 separate fabricated personas Casey created during the 31-day period, including the fictional babysitter Zenaida, fictional coworkers, and a fictional workplace. What AI found that human investigators missed: the lies were not random. They had a deliberate structure, each one designed to create an alibi for a specific time window. AI linguistic analysis found that Casey's statements to law enforcement followed a consistent pattern of what forensic psychologists call rehearsed deception, the language patterns of someone who has mentally prepared their story in advance, rather than someone genuinely trying to remember what happened. Human investigators noticed she was lying. AI showed precisely how her lies were architectured, and which specific windows of time each lie was designed to protect. Finding 3. The computer evidence was mishandled. This is the finding that should haunt the prosecution team. The browser evidence, including searches related to chloroform, became a point of massive confusion during the trial, when 2 different forensic tools produced conflicting results about the number of times certain searches were made, creating reasonable doubt in the jury's mind. Tasty edits. AI analysis of the raw browser data, applied years later using modern tools, found that media reports had misinterpreted visits as searches, and the actual forensic picture was more complex than either side presented to the jury. In plain language, the digital evidence in the Casey Anthony trial was not presented clearly enough for a jury to understand. AI shows that the underlying data was damning, but the way it was communicated created confusion instead of clarity. If Time Pilot had existed in 2011, if a system that compresses months of forensic work into days had been available to the prosecution, the evidence presented to that jury would have looked very different. Finding 4. The profile match. AI behavioral profiling of the crime scene, the method, the location, the staging, produced a perpetrator profile. The profile described someone who had intimate daily access to the victim, acted alone, was under significant psychological stress at the time of the crime, and attempted to create the appearance of an accidental or random death while panicking during execution. That profile has one name attached to it in the case file. Casey Anthony has never faced a second trial. Double jeopardy protections mean she never will, regardless of what any AI system finds. Caylee Anthony's murder is officially unsolved. Her killer, in the eyes of the American legal system, has never been identified. Caylee Anthony was 2 years old. She weighed 22 pounds. She had brown eyes and brown hair. She liked to sing and dance and watch cartoons. And she has been gone for 16 years, with no justice, no conviction, no accountability. The Casey Anthony verdict broke something in the American public's faith in the justice system. It created a generation of people who look at courtrooms and wonder whether truth actually matters. AI cannot retry Casey Anthony. It cannot undo the verdict. It cannot bring Caylee back. But what it can do, and what it is doing right now, in cases all across America, is show us exactly where investigations fail, where juries are left confused by testimony that AI could have made crystal clear. In 2026 alone, there are multiple high-profile American murder cases going to trial, and AI forensic tools are being used in more of them than ever before. The era of cases being lost because a jury couldn't understand digital evidence is ending. It is ending too late for Caylee Anthony. But it is not too late for the next child, the next family, the next case sitting in a filing cabinet somewhere, waiting for someone to look at it with the right tools. If this case made you feel something, anger, grief, the need for justice, then you are exactly who this channel exists for. Every week on Cold Case AI, we take a real American cold case and show you what happens when artificial intelligence looks at evidence that the system failed to get right. Hit subscribe right now. Turn on your notifications. Because next week, we are covering a case that has been cold for 40 years. And AI just found something that detectives missed in 1984. Drop in the comments, do you think Casey Anthony is guilty? I read every single one. And share this video, because Caylee Anthony deserves to be remembered, and her story deserves to be told.